This is Kell Julliard. This video describes my trek and pilgrimage to Nepal. This is the Red Fort in Delhi, a Jain temple followed by the Baha'i temple. I spent 2 days in Delhi before heading to Kathmandu. In Kathmandu, I met the group I would be traveling with and my teacher, Yongey Mingyur Rinpoche, author of The Joy of Living, and a man of many miraculous powers, great sense of humor. We traveled with him to the village he was born in on the border of Tibet and Nepal. With a group of 40 people, we traveled in 2 groups. This is the Great Stupa of Bodha in the east side of Kathmandu. There are many beautiful shops and monasteries around the stupa. One walks around the stupa clockwise as a meditative practice. Here we're going into the interior of the stupa where you can circumambulate it on the roof. There's a giant prayer wheel that people spin to send compassion out into the world. Kathmandu has many Tibetan Buddhist monasteries and old squares of palaces and temples. Here's a typical street with bicycle rickshaws. You'll notice there are no stop signs or traffic lights. People just pretty much make it up as they go along with a lot of fun. We traveled by jeep to the trailhead, which took a number of hours. As you can see, we drive on the left side of the road, sharing it with pedestrians, bicyclists. Kathmandu is subtropical. You can see banana palms and people riding on the tops of other vehicles. We camped along the way, traveling from summer through autumn into winter. The donkeys are the Mack trucks of the trail. You're lucky if you can afford one. Here we are getting ready to cross a bridge. You can see our porters are carrying the cooking gear on their backs. This is the way most people carry things in Nepal. We're waiting for a donkey to cross the bridge. This will give you a sense of what it's like to cross the steel suspension bridges, which were the only way across the gorges that we crossed. The people are poor in this region and life is hard. This is the way you bathe, and you'll notice that this woman carrying her load on her back is barefoot. Firewood and water are transported in this way. The plowing is still done with a wooden plow with a steel tip and oxen. I saw a number of people threshing grain with a stick and throwing it in the air so that the chaff would blow away. Here's a woman weaving a garment. This man is weaving a basket, but roofs and doors were woven in the same way. These boys are playing a local form of pool. It would take my teacher and his family 10 days to walk from their village to where they caught the bus to Kathmandu. Once they stayed in the shelter of this rock. This is an old rice terrace no longer under cultivation. Especially in the lower areas, the trails were built like stair steps and reinforced with stones. This was really the work of centuries. You can see there's about a 300-foot drop just on the side of the trail as this donkey train is going by. The stairs are angled in so that you don't slip if they're wet. You can see that this donkey driver has product in his hair. He's probably carrying a cell phone and dressed pretty well. It's amazing the mixture of old and new. We shared the trail with many animals: dogs, cows, yaks, geese, ducks, goats. This will give you an example of some of the terrain through which we hiked. These monks are on their way to the rituals that would greet my teacher when he arrived in his village. Here are 2 of my companions on the trek, and To the right you see a mani wall, which is made of stones with sacred scriptures. You can walk under this stupa, and if you look up inside you see mandalas and pictures of Buddhas. We stopped at this monastery and school where the young monks were rehearsing the dance they were going to do for Rinpoche the next day. Rinpoche was now with the second group that traveled behind us. You can hear village women rehearsing their song and dance in the background. The young monks were bathing so they'd be squeaky clean for Rinpoche the next day. The older ones were tossing buckets of warm water onto them in about 40-degree weather. Finally, we reached the village my teacher was born in, named Sama, and were greeted by this beautiful display of the 24,000-foot peak under which it rests. Here you see my teacher and his brother coming into town for the first time. They passed through a colorful gate that the village had erected. Villagers lit fires of cedar to perfume the air. My teacher was born in this house. He used to sit in a balcony in the middle looking out at the world, and the cave in which he meditated first was nearby, into which he can no longer fit. A nurse and a Tibetan doctor see patients in this clinic. While we were there, a doctor from Hawaii came to see the local villagers. We were also present at a school dedication where children performed traditional dances and politicians gave interminable speeches. This was the village monastery, about a quarter of a mile beyond the village. Behind the monastery was a great field, around which were dwellings of the monks. About 50 or 60 monks live in these stone and adobe buildings. The camera is panning up to Mount Manaslu, which is the 8th highest mountain in the world, over 24,000 feet. We were about less than halfway to the top at this elevation of 11,500 feet. Just behind the field is a lake fed by a glacier. The monks had done an 8-day ritual, 24 hours a day, to prepare for the visit of my teacher and send blessing to him and all the world. This is the culmination of the ritual. The lamas performed meditative dances. This dance is about breaking through ignorance, recognizing impermanence, and becoming enlightened. These figures represent death and impermanence. Here, along with the wrathful deities that are intended to protect wisdom and help people break through ignorance, they dance around a symbol of human ignorance, which they will destroy to bring all beings to enlightenment. On our last full day, we went up to a high plateau at about 14,000 feet. The village came up as well for a ritual, either on horseback, but mostly on foot. The ritual was conducted outside at this temple. After it was over, sweets and food and treats of various kinds were distributed to everyone. These meditation caves have been used continuously for 1,200 years. Here's my teacher and his brother in one of the caves. It took us 1 day of driving and 8 days of walking to get to the village from Kathmandu, but by helicopter it was 45 minutes. We're now flying over the village and its valley. On the left you can see the kinds of trails that we traveled on to get to the village. And as we fly, a little plateau emerges where there would be pasture land or a home. Thank you for watching.